A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Talking Smack, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and much, much more. I am your host, Josh Scar, and joining me this week is everyone's favorite Loth cat, Alex. Alex, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I am just impressed because I love that fall begins with a sudden stop of summer and a hard break into fall. AC, it was 81 on Wednesday. AC was on. This morning woke up, it is 58. The house is freezing, have to turn on the temperature. And as you know, when you turn on those lovely gas furnaces, it smells like burning hair and fire for about 35 minutes in your house.
Yep. We got our oldest a little terrified because they've become really weirdly obsessed with natural disasters and fires because like they're doing safety talks in school. And so every now and then they will ask us questions like, what if there's a tornado? What if lightning strikes our house? What if this? What if that? And it's like, none of that's going to happen. It is very unlikely it's going to happen. We don't smoke. We don't leave certain things running. We don't have space heaters. Like none of that is, unless there's like a really weird thing that happens with our outlets, which we have all updated and replaced. Nothing is really set to go on fire in our house. And then with us telling them that like, it's going to smell like something's burning because the dust and hair and everything is going to like burn up when the heat turns on. And they just got this panicked look on their face of like, the house is going to be on fire. Like, no, it's going to smell like something is burning. Didn't say there was going to be fire. And then they just were trying to just like process that statement of it will smell like burning, but there will be no fire.
Yep. Now, I'm surprised when you guys discussed briefly the concept of a tornado, you didn't educate them that, well, what happens is the sirens go off and we go outside on our front yard to confirm it. There is, in fact, a tornado. Nod, see its head hitting the Gustafsons, and just walk back out inside the house and go, yep, they deserved it.
Well, we actually don't live too far from the apple orchard. And I remember this would have been 15 years ago. I was working at a gym, a gym, if you will. And there's big glass doors on the outside and you see the skies turning green and you go, oh, that's not great. And I get out of work and all I hear is like people mourning, like some important figure had died. And I find out that the apple orchard got hit by the tornado and it like a tree fell into the main building. It wasn't horrible, but they needed to update it and it was closed for a season. But I just remember everyone be like, oh, I won't get my apple cider donuts for a year. Like there's a second one just up the way. You can go get them there.
No. There's a good one and a bad one, and unfortunately, the other one has its own stuff. It's branded. It's the West location. Sorry, it can't have the proper name. It must be branded West. Their apples are branded West. Their bags, everything, so they know that you're scum and you went to the other one.
That's true. I forget about that part. All right. Well, we are going to talk about Ahsoka this week, but first, Alex, you have some sad news to share with us. Not that you're leaving the podcast, but there's like worldly sad news, not just like internal sad news.
So it is. I think it's important to note that on the day of this recording, the Costumes Guild announced that Shauna Tropic, who is the costume designer for Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, Hidalgo, various other properties, but they passed away unexpectedly at the age of 56. According to what they noted, that she was actually on vacation, like enjoying a trip, and it was very unexpected. So somebody that has been in such nerd lore, I mean, they did Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, the Cabin in the Woods. You know, it's sad that somebody who has staked their claim.
Yeah, no, when you shared that with me and I saw their credits, I was like, oh dang, these people worked on a lot of stuff that I liked.
Yeah, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, 40 episodes.
Yeah, you like all those very specific red, white, green, black, purple, pink, yellow, blue outfits that all the Power Rangers were wearing. That was this person.
Yeah. Now, I will say that this is this part, to bring a little bit of levity, because I actually have questions and I really want to ask what this job actually entails. And we can ask David Duchovny, because actually, as you may remember, David Duchovny was doing the X-Files and the Red Shoe Diaries at the same time. And she was the wardrobe specialist on Red Shoe Diaries. So that's a question I have. What do they do on a softcore porn made for TV show? What is the wardrobe designer? What does this job entail? Do they have to like
easily removable
yeah,
wardrobe?
yeah, do they like put in like, like little seam rips and stuff like that, for easy tearaway clothing? Like, how is that work? And that is actually a question I've also wanted to ask David Duchovny that I've never seen anyone ask him. Why the hell were you doing a Skinamax softcore porn show and X-Files at the same time?
Got to make money where you can, man.
Yeah.
Evolution didn't do anything for his career.
True. But seriously, Shauna Tropic, the styles that she has done and the way that, because like the Mando, that is an iconic look. Yes, it is like mostly Beskar now, but you can tell just by the stand, the posture, the outfit, that is a look. You can, they denoting what the other Mandos looked like. I really want to know how much specific detail and costuming they had to do with for the armorer, because that look is just gorgeous. And there's something amazing about really well done costume design. Say what you want about the writing, the shows look damn good.
Yeah.
So
Shauna, I'm not sure if it's Tropsic or Tropchick, TRPCIC, an unsung legend. Some might say. I think we can go on the record as saying an unsung legend in the wardrobe department. She will be missed. 56, way too young.
Very.
But we are going to hear from our friend Matt and Adam over at Decaying with the Boys. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Ahsoka. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Judge Jordan. You know who it is.
Whoa, Matt. This isn't an episode. This is our promo.
Well, what's a promo?
Just to tell everybody about our podcast, Decaying with the Boys.
Oh, where you and I get together and talk about craft beer and combat sports and horror movies and whatever else is on our mind?
Yeah, from Buckle to Bell, we cover the best combat news in the biz.
Oh, yeah, we do that, don't we?
Yeah, every week.
Yeah, and you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, and on YouTube. We're at Decaying WTB on all social media. So catch us out there and have a beer with us. Cheers.
I don't know how many times I've listened to that promo, but I just caught that Matt says doo-doo.
You never got that?
I'm always just entranced with their energy, and like Matt just has a great voice. And
yeah,
I just, again, I'm sitting here listening to it now and like actively listening. And I heard him. So we do that. Doo-doo.
So speaking of doo-doo, let's talk about the writing.
Oh, no, don't say that. No. I was thinking about that transition. I was like, no, I can't do that. That's not fair. That's not right.
As one of my favorite streamers said, if you want to take the high road, I'll be there. But if you want to take the low road, I'll meet you there. And I went right for the doo-doo joke.
Yeah, you did.
Yup.
I mean, I inadvertently set it up, but it was unintentional this time. So we have, I don't even know if it's appropriately named as the Ahsoka show, the latest installment in the Star Wars universe. I liked it as someone who has seen the Clone Wars, Rebels, and I've invested in all of these other live action shows, starting with Mando and Book of Boba Fett even. But this was Dave Filoni's Infinity War. Dave went, hey, casuals, have you seen Clone Wars? Have you seen Rebels? Have you even maybe seen Star Wars Resistance? Too fucking bad. You need to know this shit. Otherwise, you're going to be like, it was fine. I don't know. I don't care. Like, there's so much of that first episode where it's just like, casuals, Ezra is important. We love Ezra. You need to get on the Ezra train, and you need to come along with us on this ride. Otherwise, if you're not invested in Ezra, nothing else matters to you. You're just watching some really good Star Wars cosplay.
So this is my feeling on it. I did not particularly like the Clone Wars. I understand that around season 2 they got a lot better, but it was on Cartoon Network. It wasn't very well watched. It got maybe like 1 million people an episode. Rebels was on Disney. Was it XD or Disney Main?
Disney XD.
And that was getting like 200,000-300,000 people. It lasted a few seasons. So you have these cult cartoon. I mean, I am not one of those people who's like, it's a cartoon, so it's for children. No, cartoons can be any age. Cartoons can be any medium. And that is actually what I think Pixar has somewhat fallen away from, is that they have kind of forgotten that. But there is good writing in the Clone Wars. Some of the stuff I've seen, some of the stuff you've shown, I just don't feel particularly interested in going back and watching. The animation style has always bothered me. I think there's this weird lean lately towards animation that is intentionally kind of ugly looking, like Bob's Burgers. I understand that I have friends who love that show, who worship it, but I am so disinterested because of the animation and the voice acting. It's kind of like Archer. I don't understand why everybody on Archer is always screaming their lines. That super bothers me. I mean, yes, some of it's funny, but like Clone Wars just doesn't look right to me. And Rebels is the design just kind of pushed at me in a weird way that I didn't particularly like. So I didn't go back, and I see these episodes and I'm vaguely aware that they're important. Now, I will say there's one thing that I immediately latched onto that is very important, that is very dire, and I think is something that needs to be in the front of everyone's minds for any Star Wars properties. Chopper is best boy.
Chopper is the best. He is the best cat. He is the best robot uncle, whatever you want to call him.
That little scene at the end where Chopper is like making the googly, like little googly sounds while like the little head tippy thing does, and it turns out that the stormtrooper is Ezra. Heart, right there, right in the heart.
Yeah, which I'm gonna take that as a Dave Filoni win because Chopper is voiced by Dave Filoni.
Chopper is the worst character on the show. It's kind of like Kenny. I think they're saying stuff, but I'm not sure they're actually saying stuff. But I know the intention, you know?
Yep, you get the inflection more than you do with R2, other than when he does like the little like ooh, ooh sounds. Like
yeah.
Anything else with R2, you're just like that. It's beeps and whistles. Like he could have just cursed my mother or said, "I look handsome today." I don't know.
So yeah, okay. So this is a mild knock that I have. Is there a specific reason why Hera wears the the World War Ace pilot goggles, even though she's in a ship with a windscreen?
There is no canon explanation other than it's kind of like when in modern times you have like Donatello wears glasses now because he's the nerdy guy. In the Bad Batch, the Clone Wars spinoff, you have Tech, who is a clone who also wears glasses or specs or something. It's to signify like, oh, this person is like a good pilot.
Okay. So they just carried that. They just carried that over.
Yeah, which I think Hera looks fantastic. Mary Elizabeth Winstead. The minute they cast her, I'm like, she better be fucking Hera, because I don't know who else she's going to be in this show. And I think she did a really good job as Hera. I would have, with as much of this show is just like Clone Wars 1.5, or not Clone Wars, Rebels 1.5, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of them diving into who Hera is, because I know, among other things, she has like a French-ish accent that she hides because she doesn't want people to know that she is Twilight royalty.
Oh, okay. Just because I didn't completely understand this, because admittedly, you know, as you said, it's his Infinity War, and if you didn't watch the first 95 episodes, you're going to be a little lost. Do she and Ezra have a thing? Because there is something about like the music and the framing of them looking at each other that I'm like, are they gonna make out? Do I get some? Do I finally get some Twilight making out scenes that I've been wanting in a live action Star Wars forever, and I never get.
So, Star Wars Rebels is essentially a family drama, for lack of a better word. You have Hera and Kanan, who are Space Mom and Space Dad.
Okay.
They are also in an unspoken relationship. Like they are like in love with each other, but for whatever reason they never say it, but they are like openly physical and like flirty with each other. Then you have Zeb, who is like uncle. He showed up in season 3 of Mando. He didn't show up at all in this, which I'm a little disappointed by, but I'm guessing budget cuts really impacted having a fully CGI character.
Yeah.
And then you have Sabine, Ezra, who are kids, and then you have Chopper, who is the cat.
Okay. So that would be no.
No, because it's more Ezra has been reunited with his surrogate mother.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's disappointing because I was like, it's like, okay, they've told me he's super important. And that look was a little Folger's like siblings kind of look thing. You remember that commercial from like 10 years ago?
Oh, geez, yeah. The really awkward sibling Folger's commercial.
For anyone, under the age of like 25, Google it.
Yeah, it won't hit creepy Folger's commercial and it'll be the first thing that comes up. Speaking of like going back and watching 95 episodes of the Clone Wars or 100 episodes of the Clone Wars and how 70 episodes of Rebels, and I don't think I'm gatekeeping. I don't think I'm doing like a canon thing. I think it's more just like I really wish they would respect the stories that they have told, because in episode 2 of Ahsoka, when she and Sabine go off on their adventure, they recreate the very end of Star Wars Rebels, with the exception of the fact that they have like backtracked Ahsoka's character. Ahsoka is still her, like, I'm no Jedi, I'm just a force sensitive person who is acting in the name of good. And she's not in Rebels. She has this like Jedi priestess kind of look. She's wearing like the all white robe. She's got this big staff and she's like, I know where we're going. We're going to go get Ezra. But in this, there's a prophecy that was created 20 years ago when Ezra disappeared with Thrawn. Who made the prophecy? We don't care. There's also this map that was created because somehow someone knew that Ezra took the Purrgil to take Thrawn somewhere far away, but they made the map and then hid it 20 years ago, and we've lost it to time. I don't know. Like there's a lot of really weird storytelling holes that going beyond just like changing Ahsoka's characterization from the end of Rebels into this show just to make her have a journey that gets her to that point at eventually anyway. I as someone who invested in Rebels, I feel like it's a little bit of a slap in the face, because they also did that in The Bad Batch, where if you had read the Kanan series when Star Wars Rebels season 1 came out, Kanan's origin story of when his master was killed and Order 66 and everything is very different from what happens in The Bad Batch, where the Bad Batch are the ones who save him from being killed by the Order 66 clones. And it's not like there's wiggle room to be like, oh, this happened. It's like Wicked. You're just missing the full picture. It's not that at all. They're just completely changing it for the general audience who only watches the live action stuff, who doesn't go into the further stuff, which again, fine, you can do that. But I think it's disrespectful to the creators and to the fans who have invested in that. If you're going to say like, oh, this is a side story and it doesn't necessarily affect the whole picture of the live action stuff, fine. But I don't think that it's okay to just change the narrative because live action draws more eyes, if that makes any sense.
No, it completely makes sense, because that is something that Star Wars fans have been dealing with forever, because before Lucas sold it, there were tiers. There was actually literal tiers of canon. There was Lucas canon, which is this, if Lucas said it in an interview, an aside, it was canon. And then under Lucas canon was the movies. And then under the movies was like the cartoon. And then under the cartoon was like the video games. And then under the video games were the books. And then sometimes the books superseded things. So, that's the way it was. There were tiers. And it sounds like, and when they announced the new movies, they said, hey, listen, everything is gone except for the movies and maybe Clone Wars. And now it sounds like that they're starting to get that problem again, where if they're releasing this material and you've invested in it and then something comes out and just completely rewrites it, I think you have a right to be annoyed. I mean, a lot of the material that was in 1, 2, and 3 is direct from the books. I mean, yes, they changed Darth Maul's origin and some other stuff, but Coruscant was the name city, was the big city. Rogue One, someone famously confirmed that kyber crystals were what powers lightsabers, and that the Empire was looking for them because they were trying to like monopolize them, and they also kyber crystals for some other stuff. So there's plenty of Easter eggs and things that get brought forth into the live action for quote unquote the masses. But I mean, if you already have a niche market of Clone Wars and Rebels, and then Ahsoka, who is, I mean, most people aren't going to really know who she is unless they pay attention to Clone Wars and Rebels, or her brief appearance and a half in 2 episodes of 2
one and a
different
half
shows.
episodes of,
yeah, 1.5. Then you have a right to be like, why? What's going on here? Because you're supposed to be the one along for the ride explaining to me what's going on here. And instead you're like, 1 minute.
And I mean, that's a really good transition into something I wanted to bring up, because the very first thing we see Ahsoka do is an environmental puzzle. Like they're trying to emulate Indiana Jones or something, where she drops down into a temple and she does a thing and she gets the map. She doesn't know how to open the map. But the very first thing we see her do is a very boring environmental puzzle where she's just like putting her ear up to these stone tablets or stone pillars and spinning them till they click, which like doesn't seem like she should be focusing that hard on it because of the sound design. But Mr. Sunday Movies put it really well, and I wanted to. I think he puts it better than I ever could. So we're going to listen to Mr. Sunday Movies here for about 40 seconds, and we'll be right back.
Well, some of the things that I didn't like is like there was a few moments, and it opens with this where Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, she's in like a room, like a stone room, and she's like slowly turning pillars.
She's doing an environmental puzzle from Uncharted.
Yeah. And there's another, exactly. And there's another moment where she's looking at a ball, someone's looking at a ball and clicking it. And there's another moment where people are like looking at a hologram map and trying to figure something out. And the thing is, as a viewer, all this shit is fucking indecipherable. Like, if I was watching somebody puzzling something out and you're watching it with them, then that's interesting. But if you're just turning stone pillars, I don't know what any of this does. So I'm just watching somebody slowly do an environmental puzzle.
And I think that puts a nail on the head on the first 2 episodes as to like why I think they move so slowly, is because a large portion of the plot around those episodes is those environmental puzzles. Ahsoka's doing the pillar thing, and then Sabine, they're like, oh, Sabine has the artist's eye. And so Sabine's like messing around with the little Rubik's Cube sphere, and she's like, oh, these things go together, and then she solves it. And it's like, okay, like I understand the reason you gave me as to why she solved this, but like you're still not telling me the importance of it. You're not letting me go on this journey with that person. This person is just telling me what's going on through the scene that they're acting out in. I'm going off on a huge tangent here because it just popped back into my head. When you were talking about the art in Star Wars Rebels, particularly Star Wars Rebels, the art in that show is actually inspired by the concept art for the original Star Wars by Ralph McQuarrie.
Oh.
Which is why it looks so weird.
Okay.
So like Zeb is designed after Ralph McQuarrie's original concept for Chewbacca. Like it's updated and it doesn't look quite as awful, but you can see the resemblance in it. And like the lightsabers are thinner because Ralph McQuarrie had envisioned them being like not as thick as like bamboo rods, but more twiggy. And so that's why when you look at the lightsabers in Star Wars Rebels, there's different aesthetic inspirations because of Ralph McQuarrie. Tangent over. I think this show really picks up in the middle of episode 2 when Ahsoka and Hera go off on their quick little adventure, where we find out that one of Dr. House's colleagues has been working with the Empire, running shady deals. And excuse me, I'm still dealing with a little bit of that cold from last week. And that's when we get introduced to Chopper for the first time, where it's like, hey, did you touch my stuff? And like, you can understand him almost perfectly. Like, I didn't touch your stuff. I didn't move your stuff. Yes, you did. This is just great. And like, there's good action. And I think that's where the show picked up for me, because those first like 45, 50 minutes of the show, maybe 60, until you get to that chase scene, really were kind of slow. And I'm like, what's the point of this? Because you're telling me how important Ezra is. I've seen Rebels. I know it. And I know you have to catch up the casuals who only watch the live action stuff. That's fine. But you also have to make it entertaining for everyone still.
Speaking of making it entertaining for everyone, I honestly didn't give a damn until episode 5 because I was like, okay, so she's in a coma. Okay, whatever. Oh, okay. Mysticism. I like mysticism. Flashbacks. I like flashbacks. Fighting yourself, your past, your teachings. I'm okay with this. Poorly CGI'd, de-aged Hayden Christensen. Okay, I'm fine with that too. I'm fine with that. But that's where I actually felt like, okay, so to me, Dave Filoni, I enjoy watching his interviews because you can tell he's a huge fanboy. His dogmatic defense of the original 3 Star Wars movies and the themes present in them, just sometimes listening to him talk about themes of like, fathers and sons and falling and people's failures and all the stuff that he actually gets from those movies and from, speaking with Lucas and the archives and all that stuff is beautiful. Like, he 100% understands the intention and why we as fans have loved this franchise for almost 50 years now. And so when he is in his element, I feel like it is when he's able to play with the old and the new. And so, parts 5 and 6, I thought were just great. Just the whole, like, the best part of Obi-Wan was when Obi-Wan and Vader were seeing each other again. I did not particularly like the bullshitty line of, you didn't fail Anakin, I killed him thing. That's kind of like a bullshitty plot hole spackle thing. Yep. That's, but the line still works. The moments between them still work. And that is what I thought worked well there. And I will go a little bit further and say, I've always loved Sith witches, and I want a Sith witch, and I want to swear to them. That entire oath, I was just like, that oath was like 5 lines that took 10 minutes to film because they said, pad your lines, please. Repeat them slowly. But I would, as 3 creepy Sith witches approached me asking me to renege all that I was, and and swear allegiance to them so they can come over and touch me on the forehead gently and then burn the hell out of me and give me Sith powers, I am down for that.
Don't forget a cool glowy green sword.
That is a question I have. So we have lightsabers, we have vibroblades. Now Mr. Filoni has decided to introduce dark sabers and now green sabers. Will there in fact be purple blades, orange blades?
Well, you have to
blades?
remember the dark saber is a lightsaber that has been appropriated by the Mandalorian hierarchy, I guess.
Are you suggesting that the Mandalorians culturally appropriated from a small group of mystic monks?
No, I'm just saying they took the lightsaber.
But that green, I was like, "Ooh, what are they going to give her?" And then this green blade appeared. I'm like, I heard in my head the Zord appear, like the Zord sound. I'm like, "Come on, Tommy!" It's like, "Come on, Tommy, pop out and take that blade. Go whip some Jedi ass." But there's good moments in this show. I just was bored for a lot of it because
the flaw of the show is that it's doing a lot of setup. And like I said, it's the Infinity War. But the problem is it doesn't tell a full story within itself. It falls a little short of that. It's not quite across the Spider-Verse, but it's not Infinity War. It's a weird in between because there are some characters who fulfill their arc, like Sabine. It's completely telegraphed. You know what's going to happen, which I didn't particularly care for her arc. Not because I don't think that she is a quote unquote Mary Sue like has been going around. I think it's more she is interesting as a Mandalorian, especially as a Mandalorian who does want to try and tap into the Force. I just don't think it's interesting that she is like fully Force sensitive now. Like she is fully capable of just manipulating the Force as she needs to. I think if she had like just a little bit, like she had just enough oomph to do something. I think that's more interesting than my life's in danger. Oh, I've pulled the lightsaber to me. I've unlocked my potential. I'm good to go. I'm a Jedi now, or I'm at least a Padawan. I think it's more interesting to talk about how, or like you can continue to build it up, even like get her to that point. It's not 0 to 100. It can be 0 to 20, and then you can continue to build up those powers, and she can like hit roadblocks. And I think that's more interesting instead of just going like, look, you see these two Sith master and apprentices that we have in Balin Skull and Shin Hati. Well, we've also got a master and apprentice in Ahsoka and Sabine. Look, they're two sides of the same coin, except one is still working towards their like synchronicity, and the other one is fully in sync. Look at that. They're buying.
Yeah.
But to go back a little bit to what you're talking about with the mysticism and flashbacks to the Clone Wars and stuff. So that wasn't like a coma or like a fever dream. Somehow Ahsoka fell into what is called the world between worlds. This was a big plot point in season 4 of Star Wars Rebels. And it looks like it's going to play into season 2 of Ahsoka, if there is a season 2, or if this is building up into the big team up movie. So what the worlds between worlds is it's a big old MacGuffin that allows whoever is in there to view points in time. They can't necessarily change it because according to what Star Wars Rebels said, everything is like a fixed point in time. So like, spoiler alert, for Star Wars Rebels season 4, if you do not want to be spoiled, skip ahead like 15, 20 seconds. Kanan Jarrus dies in a heroic act saving the Rebels crew. And Ezra goes into the world between worlds accidentally as well. And he sees Kanan saving himself. But if he were to go and save Kanan in the world between worlds, the past would change and Ezra would die. So it's a fixed point in time.
This now explains why Disney bought the rights to Doctor Who. Because in Doctor Who, you can go back and change most everything, but there are fixed points in time that cannot be changed.
Exactly. And in season 2 of Rebels, which I think the 2-part finale in season 2 of Rebels is like some of the best Star Wars stuff we will ever see. I would strongly recommend it, even if you don't like animation. Ahsoka faces off with Darth Vader in the final moments of that episode. And in season 4 of Rebels, Ezra saves her because her fate is kind of left unclear throughout season 3 and most of season 4. But what happens is Ezra pulled her into the world between worlds before she got crushed by a Sith temple. And so now she's a few months into the future from there. And so when Ahsoka enters the world between worlds, she's visited by Anakin's Force Ghost, and he takes her through some points in time to teach her a lesson and finish her training, as he says. I don't fully understand what the lesson was. I've watched that episode a couple times since, and it sounds like the lesson, or the lesson I walk away with, is that Ahsoka didn't fully understand her training because she was trained in a time of war. And so she thought she was just trained to be a weapon, when in fact she was trained to be a Jedi. And there's more to being a Jedi than lightsabers and fighting. I don't think that message is particularly clear, but that's just the best I can come up with.
I have no idea what the lesson was, but I'm leaning towards.
And she's also concerned because she's afraid of what she can become, because she was trained by the guy who would eventually become Darth Vader. So she's scared of herself as well, and that's holding her back from accepting what a Jedi truly is. But again, it's real murky as to what they're trying to convey with that.
Yeah, so I mean, part of it I think is that to me they're stealing or setting up a lot of 7, 8, and 9, because like Thrawn goes something along the lines of like, the one who trained you and became blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, so you're aware that Anakin was Darth Vader, or Darth Vader was whatever you want to, like, okay, sure. I mean, it probably was an open Imperial secret, I imagine.
If you hit a certain point in the Imperial ranks, you probably had that secret, or
I mean, he's Thrawn. He probably just hacked into it and studied it and went, "Yup." Or I mean, well, he's Thrawn. He probably just deduced it because Thrawn's supposed to be an uber genius.
True.
But so I think that was like her trying to reconcile her quitting, but also her I partially wonder if it's her expressing guilt that she abandoned him and he fell. It's like episode 9 where Bitchface needed to understand that he needed to forgive himself for killing his father. So for killing Han Solo. So she needed to forgive herself for him falling and not being able to save him. I partially wonder if that's what it was, because
I could see that too.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, because part of Anakin's fall as well is that he felt like he did not save Ahsoka,
right.
which Clone Wars kind of throws a weird wrench into, because he literally saw her like 48 hours before he became Darth Vader.
Yeah, but then there's also that, I mean, he was also heavily manipulated. I mean, part of the thing is when he first awoke as Vader, he had been promised all this bullshit by Palpatine. The first thing he's told is that, like, no, you killed your wife and children. It's the constant manipulation of what Vader is. So I do wonder if is like I'm assuming she didn't know about Luke and Leia until far later, but I'm wondering if that's part of Ahsoka's pain, is that she saw him right before he fell, and therefore she now needs to forgive herself.
Yeah, and it's possible if I remember in Tales of the Jedi, she was at Padme's funeral, so she would have seen her buried pregnant, so she would not have known about Luke and Leia.
Okay, I did not know that. But yeah, going back to that is the stuff I like, and that is the stuff where I feel like he excels. As Mr. Sunday said, they do not know how to do frame environmental puzzles, because that is the best part of environmental puzzles, is you are figuring it out as it happens. Like those columns she was spinning. To me, I was looking at them going like, man, they just ripped off Fifth Element. But when they did that in the end of the Fifth Element, you had a group of people, you have these things, you're trying to figure out what they are, how they work, and you figure them out together.
Yeah, and you have the ticking clock going as well with that, where
Right.
Ahsoka's just wandering around by herself, and she drops down into this cavern, temple, whatever, and she does a quick little turn, like she's picking a dial lock or something.
Okay, so I do have another question for you regarding Ahsoka's white blades. Are those the ones that she was given as a Padawan? I think she's always been known for them, right?
No, so her
Okay.
first lightsaber, I believe, was green, and then she eventually adopted a dual blade system. And then when she retired from the Jedi Order, after being framed by another Padawan for bombing, I think the Senate, when she came back, Anakin gave her back her same dual lightsabers, but he had adjusted them to be blue. I forget how. There's like a manipulation tactic where like force sensitive people can talk with the lightsabers, and they can convert them in a way. And like Filoni used the conversion from green to blue as like a way of showing how controlling Anakin is over the people he loves and cares about.
Creepy.
Yeah, that's the idea. And so when her white lightsabers, those are brand new lightsabers that she created after the Siege of Mandalore and after the events of like the Order 66.
Okay.
And the white lightsabers are actually Inquisitor kyber crystals that were distorted into being red, that she had confided with and like healed them in a way, and they became white. Which that leads a little bit into some of the finale talk, which we're getting close to our hour, so let's move into the finale anyway.
Well, I have a specific question about those white lightsabers. Is there a specific reason they don't do the hum or the distortion? You know what I'm talking about? When the movies, they ignite the lightsaber, they have that specific hum, and they have that little, like, you have the glow of the blade.
Yeah, you see like the energy pulsing kind of thing.
And you have that distortion like around it. And there's always been the fan theory, because you look at Vader's, which is a more powerful glow than Obi-Wan's when he passes away. And then you have Luke's, which is a strong blue, but Luke's, when he makes his own and it's green, is very powerful in Return of the Jedi, versus Vader's red, which seems to be dimming. So there's been a bit of fan theory that your connection with the Force and your power in that moment causes a brightness in the width of the blade, so to say. Hers doesn't have any distortion at all. It's just like a glow stick. And
I'm wondering if it's more just because it's white.
Okay.
So like it is pure, so therefore there's no distortion to it.
Because if you look at the dark saber, it has that, it has that black outline. Then it has, and the interior has a little bit of white to it, but the outside has that, what I'm talking about, the halo.
It's got the
effect?
halo. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I was wondering if there was like some kind of canon reason for that.
My best guess is that it's because it's a healed crystal, so it is in some sense purified.
Okay. So it's kind of like the opposite of Kylo Ren, which is the explanation for him having the blade guards is that it's
like an exhaust port because it's an unstable crystal.
Yeah, because his crystal is unstable and broken like him, so it got okay, all right.
Yeah, so that's my best guess. I don't know for sure. I haven't gone too far down that rabbit hole. Speaking of the rabbit hole, for those that, again, are not aware, I'm going to be going on a tangent here from Star Wars, The Clone Wars, because where the last time we see Baylan Skoll, he's standing on top of a big statue that looks like Father Time, but that's actually the Father, who is like the embodiment of balance in the Force. And to his right is the Son, who is the embodiment of the dark side of the Force. And to his left is a broken monument of the daughter, which is a monument to the light side of the Force. Going to borrow a quote from Matt. There's some weird Star Wars bullshit, Dave Filoni bullshit that happens in the Clone Wars where Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Anakin got redirected somehow into a weird nothingness planet called Mortis, which is home to, I believe they're called the Others, which is the father, the son, and the daughter. A whole thing happens where the son sees like Anakin's future and shows it to Anakin, and Anakin's like, okay, I'll become one with the dark side to prevent that future because that makes sense. And through a whole bunch of shenanigans, eventually Anakin fails because like his love for Obi-Wan and Ahsoka saves him. But then the son manipulates Ahsoka, and Ahsoka becomes his Padawan essentially and dies actually. Yeah, she dies, but the daughter also like sacrificed herself in a way and is dying. And so she gives like whatever's left of her life force to Ahsoka and revives her. Ahsoka now carries the spirit of the light side of the Force within her. And with that also comes a pet owl called Morai, who follows her around in moments of importance, which is why in the last shot we see of Ahsoka, there's this weird owl that like flies away, which the fan theory, which has not been substantiated yet, is that the spirit of the daughter now lives in the owl, Morai, and it shows up in moments of importance for Ahsoka. So like when she is saved from the world between worlds by Ezra, it's waiting for her outside the Sith temple, and it leads her away. So there's a whole thing about how like Ahsoka's white lightsaber crystals could also be tied to the fact that she's carrying the light side of the Force within her, the manifestation of the light side of the Force. Not necessarily the entirety of it, but the manifestation of it.
Okay. You just said
this is a really bad Wikipedia breakdown of it. I'm sorry. Like this is me just spitballing it.
No, that's fine. Does any of that lead us to getting Mara Jade out of the computer so Luke has a wife?
Not yet, anyway. I mean, let's see what Dave Filoni does with this team up movie.
Because half of that crap, I'm like, that sounds about as right as some of that weird shit in the books where it's like, Luke, we found the perfect person for you. She's 1,500 years old inside of a computer. You just got to free her from it. And it's a Sith battle cruiser that, even though it's 1,500 years old, it's the most powerful thing I've ever built across the world and blah, 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 but somehow it got lost. Let's not forget all that. So one more thing I have to ask about, because I'm still not quite sure I understand. Is Ray Stevenson and the creepy...
Yes, he is dead.
Okay,
I'm sorry to say he is dead.
I know. No, I'm saying is his character and the creepy blonde that travels with him, are they Sith or Jedi or both?
So my understanding is I feel like Dave Filoni is really loving to play like just the tip with the Grey Jedi concept. He wants to get in that spot, but he doesn't want to commit because Grey Jedi are dumb.
Grey Jedi are dumb. Yes. Now, part of it is because using James Bond logic, if they're blonde, they're the bad guy. And she's really, really blonde and pale. Therefore, she is probably Russian. and she is probably going to betray Ahsoka if they ever meet up again. That's just my logic. Because I'm looking at their storyline going, I'm not sure what you're doing, but I'm pretty sure you're both evil. But I don't know yet.
I am very curious what is going to happen with them, because I know there are a lot of people who were like, oh my God, Ray Stevenson is redefining what it means to play a Star Wars villain. I don't subscribe to that because I have not seen enough of him to know what's going on. I think he's extraordinarily compelling because, like, he's not a Sith in the sense of, like, I desire absolute power. We don't really know what he desires. We don't know what he wants. We just know that from context, he wants to find the world between worlds. He just doesn't know what it is yet. Shin is just he wants to continue something with the Jedi concept. He wants to improve on what the Jedi were. He is doing what he can with her to be more than a Jedi, but not quite a Sith, because it doesn't seem like, again, he's seeking to manipulate in a way that is like destructive.
Right.
He seems to understand that things are happening. He can't control it. He's just going to kind of flow with it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that'll take him to where he needs to go. But he trusts in the Force enough that he knows the Force will get him where he needs to go. He just doesn't know where that is yet. But he also clearly has an ulterior motive. He has some kind of motivation to, if he's going to the world between worlds, he wants to go back in time and change something. But what that is, we don't know, because of how ambivalent he is towards everything. Like, right. Shin asks him directly, like, do you miss the Jedi Temple? Do you miss the Jedi Order? And he's like, I miss the idea of it. And that is intriguing as all hell. Like, that was a fantastic delivery. And I think that makes a world of sense for someone who has survived through the rebellion, the rise of the Empire, the Clone Wars. And it's a really good other side of the coin for Ahsoka, because it is kind of who she could have become.
Okay. Thank you. That actually makes a lot more sense than what I got in the show. Now that we are desperately running quite late in the show, and we haven't all talked about Thrawn. Now, Josh,
I'm sorry. We also haven't talked about Carson Teva. I mean, MVP of the show. Paul Sun-Hyung Lee, fantastic in everything he's done. The only thing I will disagree with him on is that he's a Toronto Blue Jays fan, but he's from Toronto, so I will cut him some slack.
I was going to say we haven't talked about how bad the combat is, because at one point I rewatched episode 8 and I froze it, and there were 20 stormtroopers on screen firing at 3 people, and only like 3 shots were on screen at one point.
Oh my God, that
wow.
That drove me nuts. Yar.
I still don't know how they killed them. They just cut back and they're all dead.
Like, well, not only that, but once they were resurrected as the Night Troopers, which you saw coming from a mile away.
Yup.
There were like 3 stormtroopers on screen that had blasters once they were resurrected. The rest of them were just walking and being zombies.
Yeah.
And yet there was still like a shit ton of blaster fire coming at them. Like, who is firing? What is happening here? This is like, you can't expect me to see 25 stormtroopers on screen. 3 of them have blasters, and yet there's a bunch of blaster fire coming from off screen. Like, you need to clarify what this spatial process is.
Yeah, that whole cast needs to do some more combat training to actually, anyway.
I thought Natasha Liu Bordizzo as Sabine did a really good job with her combat. I thought her action sequences were really good. And I give her a lot of credit too, because it does the thing that you and I hate with Mandalorians, where they take off the helmet because you have a face actor. You got to have them emote. So you have to have them lose their helmet for some reason, or not have it on them at all. Yeah. And so you see her, Natasha Liu as Sabine, a lot in combat. And I think she does a really good job. Rosario Dawson, like, she's in orange makeup with a headdress. You don't need Rosario Dawson in that shot.
Yeah.
You can put a stunt person in there and make it look good. Her action sequences are so stiff.
Yeah. So Thrawn, have you read the books?
Fantastic. Lars Mikkelsen, chef's kiss.
Have you read the books where Thrawn's in?
Hell no.
Okay. I take it you only know him then for what, Rebels? They brought him back
I
in
know him
Rebels?
through Rebels, but like I've seen a lot of like Easter eggs, like in Rebels in his office, he has like 2 lizards hovering over an orb, which I guess those are like force sensitive lizards that can negate the force for a Jedi.
My confusion with this live action Thrawn is, and I know it's very difficult to portray a villain who's 6 steps ahead of the good guys in a show or a movie, because it seems like a cheat half the time. So part of what my disbelief of them showing him is that I have to believe this is the plan until we get to the actual Heir of the Empire movie, which I don't know if that's 2 seasons away. I don't know if that's Ahsoka season 1, 2, 3, Mando 4, Acolyte season 1 plus Book of Boba Fett 2. I don't know all the spin-offs and all the stuff they're manipulating that's supposed to lead us to an Heir of the Empire movie. But I didn't buy that he was ahead of the plan this whole damn time, because turning this lady into an awesome, great mother with a green lightsaber just to have her killed, and then he casually says she did her part. That was your plan? That's not a great plan, man. That's the only part I didn't like. Because Thrawn, you're right, chef's kiss. Those micro facial expressions as he's watching this stuff unfold is so good. It is what I want from the Chiss, and why the Chiss, when I play Star Wars: The Old Republic, I always choose to play a Sith, because the Sith, 1, they look cool, but 2, it's just the stoicism that is supposed to be part of their character, and his little like tweaks and I mean, he's a hum and like a slight smirk says like 3 paragraphs worth of words. It's lovely.
Yeah, I'm not one to like fawn over the bad guys. I'm a Boy Scout kind of person. I like my good guys. I thought Iman Esfendi was really good as Ezra. I think Dave Filoni the casting director did a really good job of translating the Rebels people into the Rebels animated characters into live action. Again, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, fantastic as Hera. Natasha Liu Bordizzo, great as Sabine. Rosario Dawson, I think, is still really good as Ahsoka, but there is still just like a charm missing from her. Like Ahsoka always has this like wittiness to her, and Ahsoka as Rosario Dawson, or Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, feels very flat, like very stoic, and the charm is missing, in my opinion. I have a couple. I feel like I've been shitting on this show, but I really enjoyed it, especially again as a Rebels person. And I feel like I've been educating you, the listener, and Alex to some of the back stuff, the backstory. And that's where I'm getting excited about this show. But the show needed to be more than like having like my in-laws coming to me and being like, Josh, what did this mean? And then me getting excited about it and making no sense, because I'm talking about the father, the son, and the daughter, and Mortis and Ahsoka dying and being resurrected and becoming the new embodiment of the light side of the Force. I still have to say, I really love my circle of Star Wars fans that I talk to, like Josh at Quest Me, Chat Tsunami, like a lot of people that I talk to about Star Wars in my personal life. But dear God, the Star Wars fan base as a whole is just so annoying when it comes to shit like what the hell, Merrick, Inquisitor, that was essentially just a Night Sister spell.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, oh, he's Ezra. He's been manipulated by the Night Sisters. He's already back. Thrawn's already back. And then he just ends up being a puff of smoke. And they're like, oh, well, we got to move the goalposts. So let's find out what the next thing is. And then I think it was episode 6, maybe 7, when we're introduced to Enoch, when we first finally see Thrawn. And I saw Enoch and I'm like, that better not be fucking Ezra. Dear God, please let us see Ezra. Either tell us that Enoch is Ezra by the end of this episode, or get us to Ezra by the end of this episode. I cannot take another week of who is Ezra discourse. And thankfully, we see Ezra hanging out with the Noti, the cool little crab snail people, hermit crab people. But like the minute Enoch showed up on screen, I was just like, dear God, I can already hear the keyboards typing and everyone theorizing that he is another manipulated Ezra.
See, I find that funny because like if you wanted to go like full negative, I could go full negative. But my thing about it is like it is the joy of like a good 5-minute rant. For me, now that I'm getting old, I'm in my 30s, Josh.
Don't remind me.
It loses a lot of punch because it's effervescence, it's nothingness. Instead, what I will just say was there were enjoyable parts. And I'm not going to go back and watch Clone Wars. I'm not going to go back and watch Rebels because they don't particularly interest me. What I got from these 8 episodes was a passable time with things that I found interesting. I still contend that Filoni is not particularly talented at directing or writing for live action. And I think his skills and merits probably lie within animation. And that is not saying that like, oh, like he's just not good enough. No, what I'm saying is that we'll take Seth MacFarlane. Ted was good. Ted 2 was not good. Once Upon a Time West was not good. But go back to television and you go back to the Orville. Once you get past episode 5, it's fantastic. It's the best Star Trek we have in the last like 20 years. His talents lie within the procedural generation of television and the constraints they're in. When he's given an unlimited budget, it's not great. Filoni has found a talent and skill within that. He has a very strong look. Like some people were complaining that, oh, they just look like cheap cosplay. I'm sorry. You look at each one of those episodes, the show costs like $200 and something million. The money is on the screen for those 8 episodes. It is there. They're gorgeous. They look great. I have some quibbles. Like I still don't believe Hera was quite translated appropriately because it's a little bit too flat. They removed some of her the Twilight tales. They removed some of like the styling that was on them from the animation to that. I don't understand why. I mean, they did it for Ahsoka. Ahsoka still has hers. Whatever. I could complain about it. But instead, what I got 8 episodes that were mildly interesting, that had things that intrigued me. I do want to see where Thrawn leads up. I think Thrawn's story will, to me, did they capture him appropriately from the books, the legacy material that I read, will end up in that movie. How is he ultimately defeated? Is it because they outsmarted him or outwitted him? Or is it because of stupid stuff like, yes, she did her part? I'm sorry, dude, that was not a good plan. Now, do they get them there? That's what I need to know. I think I'm excited for Force Witches. I want to see where the Bond villain and her caretaker go. I want to see, do they eventually, does Lucasfilm finally break down and go, you know what, Sebastian Stan, we need Luke. You're Luke. You're in this thing. I want you and Mando and Osaka next to each other. And I want, I want and Baby Yoda in the cockpit, blazing away, taking on Thrawn.
You forgot Captain Carson Teva.
And Captain Carson Teva. I want to see that. And the armor right there saying this is the way because God, I love her. Speaking of which, as you would say, you hate Star Wars fanboys. After episode 7, which was like called the traitor, whatever, that all that bullshit about how the armor was actually, she's the one who's secretly been making all that, like all the dark stormtrooper bullshit, and she's secretly evil, and she's actually like the daughter of Darth Maul because she has the little
she's got the little spikes and shit.
Yeah, Darth Maul spikes. So she's actually that person. Blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, if they do that, I will straight up actually go drive to LA, go to that soundstage, and be like, we need to talk because I love her and she's my favorite. And how dare you? But they did it. They did the right thing. She's just badass.
I do feel like the sequel trilogy, notwithstanding, I feel like they do, for the most part, make the right Star Wars decision. I think that a lot of the fan theories, like, oh yeah, it's fun to speculate for a week. I think a lot of them skew more into like Snyder stuff that I think is dumb. But I mean, you do you, but don't shove it down everyone's throat. Like I know we live in a clickbaity hot take society and we try to keep things more casual here. And that's part of the reason why I don't really engage in a lot of discourse, is because like most of the time I'm just like, your idea sucks. Let's just see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was passable. I'm probably not going to revisit it. I might revisit moments, but there's nothing in this show that made me well up or go with excitement. Like, I can put on chapter 16 of Mando and cry at a given moment if I just fast forward to, someone's arrived. Really, one X-wing? What's that going to do? And I start getting the little thumps because it's Luke. It's my Luke, the Luke I've been wanting to see, the legacy Luke in his full power as a Jedi, coming and destroying and coming to love and take Baby Yoda. And then Luke going to Mando, hey, he needs your permission to leave. Oh, it gets me. There's nothing here that really did that for me. Instead, I'm intrigued by the cookies. They left a lot of little crumbs for me to go like, okay, cool. Sith witches. I've known they've been a thing forever. We're seeing them. We're seeing them in their power. What does Thrawn want with them? What is Thrawn doing? What did he do for 20 years with Ezra? What is this goal? And that is intriguing. And so, if they get a season 2, sure, I'll watch it.
Yeah. So I have one other note that it's going to bother me if I don't say it. It is shit canning a moment in the show, in the finale, when Ezra's building his new lightsaber. Hu Yang is like, what are you doing? I have a system, blah, blah, blah. And Ezra's trying to build his lightsaber, but he's looking for a certain kind of emitter, which ends up being similar to or identical to what his master Kanan Jarrus's emitter was for his lightsaber. And it blows my fucking mind that they needed Sam Witwer on this set, because this moment is one of those moments where like Sam Witwer loves to tell this story about how the voice actor for Anakin in the Clone Wars had this brilliant soliloquy where he's talking to as Anakin, he's talking to Shmi Skywalker as a Force ghost or in like a Force fever dream or something, and he's like, oh, I'd love for you to meet Padme. And like people are crying in the recording studio, and then Sam's like raising his hand, are we going to do a new take because Shmi has met Padme? And that like during episode 1, and one of the people in the booth with him was like, I've never seen anyone outdork Dave Filoni. Well done. This is another moment where 3, 4, 5 episodes ago, when Jason shows that he has Force sensitivity because his father was a Jedi, because the Force is inherited, which I think is stupid. Hu Yang goes, oh, his father was Kanan Jarrus, and he is showing abilities. And then Ezra's building his lightsaber, and he's doing his thing. He's putting it together, and Hu Yang goes, who taught you how to build a lightsaber? And Sabine interrupts and says, his master. And they have this weird, like, we're going to play around it moment. And essentially it comes down to Hu Yang not directly saying, who was your master? And then Ezra goes, Kanan Jarrus, as like, it's supposed to be this big moment for anyone who hasn't seen Rebels. And Hu Yang goes, oh, I have that exact emitter and blah, blah, blah. And he was just like you in this moment. But like Hu Yang knows that Jason is the son of Kanan, but he's spent 20 some years with these Rebel crew members, the Spectre crew members, and Ahsoka. And he never found out that Ezra, who they talk about nonstop, was trained by Kanan, who was also on the ship with them. Bullshit. I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm shit canning this moment because you could have written around that so easily, where you could have just had Ezra just being crazy because he's in a rush to build a lightsaber, and he's like, it's not right, this isn't what I need, this isn't what it should be, this isn't what I want. And you could have Hu Yang hand it to him and be like, is this what you're looking for? And he's like, just like Kanan's. Yes, thank you. And that would have been perfect. Would have been fine, if nothing else. But you have to play around this moment where Hu Yang's like, who was his master? I know everything else. I've helped every Jedi ever build their lightsaber. But this is a gap in my knowledge, despite me hanging around with these people for 20 plus years.
So I will explain away that moment. Now, as you know, Hu Yang is voiced by David Tennant, who is the 10th and 14th Doctor. And the Doctor often travels about and interacts with people at different points of their life. And so at that moment, he didn't know that because he hadn't yet traveled in the past yet to explain to himself that he knew that.
The world between worlds, we full circle.
You may not have seen the fact on that ship in the background underneath a tarp is in fact a blue phone box.
I thought it would be like more of like a neon green. They got rid of the blue stuff.
Oh, that's right. Because Anakin said so.
So like that is, like I said, I don't like being like canon is all. I don't like being the kind of person that says like, oh, I don't gatekeep. You enjoy what you enjoy. You take in what you take in. But even within the context of the show, that moment made no damn sense.
I had seen some fans complain about some of that moment and stuff, but I mean, I'm not going to fault it. It is what it is. One of my main concerns going forward is that Filoni and Favreau really need to get in line with what they're doing.
Yeah,
because this definitely feels like like Filoni sandbox. He wrote every episode. He's like, these are my toys. This is what I like. Mando season 3 really felt like rushed rewrites and cobbling together for something better, bigger and better, which may not necessarily be something bigger and better in my opinion. And Lord knows Book of Boba Fett was trash after like when it became Mando 2.5.
Well, I thought that's when it got good, was when it became Mando 2.5, because Boba Fett wanting to be a gangster who doesn't want to do crime and would rather, he's more of a sheriff than he is anything like that's not interesting.
Well, what I mean was like, is that it wasn't even his own show anymore, which is a problem. That I have. And
well, I mean, that's the same thing with Ahsoka here. Like you could argue that Sabine was more of the main character than Ahsoka was.
Yeah, but I mean, then you have to say the same thing is going on about Mando. Mando season 3, 90% of his episodes where Mando gets beat up and someone else saves the day. You know? So they need to get on board with how they're playing with each other's toys.
Mm-hmm. Part of the problem is the production timeline on all this shit too, is they seemingly don't start the next project until they figure out if this one was well received or not.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know we just had a writer's strike. We're still in the midst of the actor's strike, which pro union, go union.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like a really bad model to follow if you're trying to tell a story, because you're adjusting on the fly, which clearly worked well for you in Rise of Skywalker. It's something that we've talked about it before with these production timelines, with these streaming shows where, yeah, you're putting a movie budget into it, but movies nowadays are filmed and released within a year. Venom was announced in like October of 2016, 2017, maybe I think it was 2018. And then it was released October 2019.
Yeah.
Like, say what you will about the quality of the movie, but that is kind of what movies are nowadays, is they're made within a year, where previously movies would be made over like a 5-year span. You would see if the movie did well and it's like home video release, then you'd greenlight the project, you'd have pre-production, you'd film for a year, and then you have a year of post-production. But since 2010, movies have, like, the timelines for movie production has gotten shorter and shorter. And I don't understand how that works with these streaming shows, where you have to wait 90 days to figure out if the show was a success, and then you have to begin the pre-production process from there, and then you don't even start filming, and filming takes a year for some reason.
Yeah.
Which again, Game of Thrones broke production, in my opinion, for like these big epic TV shows.
Yeah, that isn't. that is also another thing like I thought was really particularly bizarre is that like so Mando takes like 6 to 8 months to film, which they're talking about how they have that set that they can do anything and makes everything so much faster. But
The
then,
volume, yeah.
and then you have Bo-Katan talking about like how like, oh yeah, this show is so much different from when they were filming Battlestar Galactica. They're like, well, one, he's like the catering budget is bigger than budget of our TV shows, but also like typically with TV production, you get maybe 2 or 3 takes and that's all you get. He's like, but here, he's like, and that's where like I cut my teeth because I was like, they called me one take Kate. But here, we can play around. We do 30 to 50 takes per shot. And I'm like, you're standing around with a bunch of people with helmets. What do you need 50 freaking takes for? and Mando's voice is dubbed in post-production. Heck, anyone who's wearing a helmet is dubbed in post-production. What the hell are you doing 50 takes for? What are you finding the story while you're filming? That's not a great way to do a show. That destroys the budget, that destroys editing, that destroys the reason that you have everything. I don't know. And it came down that that Iger is he's slashing the streaming. He's attacking heavily because they're losing hand over fist because they're finding out that you can't just infinitely grow a streaming service and hope that everyone subscribes. So the budget supposedly for MCU shows and Star Wars shows going forward for a TV show is going to be $75 million. That is a drastic budget decrease considering that Secret War Invasion was $250. Rumor is Mando season 3 was around $300.
Like, where's that budget going? It's not like
yeah.
I mean, I assume the volume is expensive, but I mean, Secret Invasion was filmed on site, and like maybe they did have some volume shots, but I can't imagine they were that many. But either way, I don't know. This again is an episode unto itself. But there's a weird production timeline going on here, and we might not even see this big team up movie for like 7 more years, if not longer, based on these production timelines. Is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. So like it's a really weird process that I don't know. But to give the Talking Smack rating, I think Ahsoka is a must see for any Star Wars fan, especially if you've invested in the animated stuff, which I do think this is kind of a payoff for a lot of that. But for casuals or people who only invest in the live action or who just like Alex has said, he didn't particularly care for the animation style of the Clone Wars or Rebels, which again, there's a weird appreciation for the Rebels art style aesthetic because it is inspired by Ralph McQuarrie. So like if you go in understanding that, I think that allows you to appreciate the show in a different way. And it allows you to accept the art style a little bit more.
Since you pointed that out, I was doing some light Googling during one of your rants. I can see what you mean now. And that very angular, tight style, like the original Vader mask was very triangular with everything. Yep. Yeah, I'm like,
and when Vader shows up, you can be like, oh yeah, they pulled that straight from Ralph McQuarrie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I will say it is a must see because I love Force Witches, and I just want to say their oath.
and Chopper, like, you can't knock Chopper.
I love Chopper. Why did they have more Chopper toys? I need a Chopper.
Well, I mean, he got his own poster, and they've started releasing stuff, and he's in Galaxy's Edge now, which I've seen some videos of people talking with Chopper. And I mean, say what you will about the Disney magic, but if Chopper were real and he were in Disney World or Disneyland, he would destroy so many people's phones because he would get pissed at them for saying stuff. Like I saw one video, I can't even remember what the context is, but I'm just like, oh man, they're so lucky that they can't actually do the Chopper thing because Chopper would like run over that person's foot or steal their phone and smash it.
So just, between you and me and our listeners, Mando wanders Disney, Star Wars land or whatever the heck they call it.
Galaxy's Edge.
And he has a baby Yoda with him that actually is animated and moves and talks. Either one or two things is going to happen. Either I'm going to get hired at Disney so that I can become one of the Disney faces and get the costume and then quit that same day and just walk out in costume. And they will have to come and find me.
They're Disney. They'll find you.
No, not find. Fine. because I'm not giving up the outfit and the Baby Yoda. Or 2, that will be chased out of the park because I will have knocked over Mando and stolen Baby Yoda. And if Chopper's there, Chopper will assist because Chopper's a good boy and he knows what to do.
Yeah, he would. All right, well, let's get out of here. Ahsoka, a must-see show.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sticking with us through all this. And don't forget to join our Discord because we have some great conversations. I did try to have an Ahsoka discussion in there, but it felt like I was going to start repeating myself, so I kind of distanced myself from that.
Yeah.
Don't forget to follow us on all social medias at Talking Smack Pod on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Hive, Post News, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Lonnie's website. Email us your thoughts, question, reviews at tsmackpod@gmail.com. Thank you to Leo Allen for our wonderful music you're hearing now. Alex, who did the remix?
The remix this week is done by the Cranberries.
Oh, my dreams.
Exactly.
Thank you to Beppo and Retrorail Studios for our avatars. Please like, subscribe, rate, review, and most importantly, thanks again so much for listening. Take care, and we will see you next week. Also, watch Star Trek.
No, I did not go through your stuff. Did you look under the backup battery? Great.